Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to the final video of Indie August. And it is like a what I learned style wrap up because that just seemed fitting for some reason. Now, a lot of people that have come to my channel in the last couple months, and I have seen a very decent uptick in subscribers over this summer. I think a lot of you think that I've been doing this for a very long time, that I've just been around for years and you just haven't heard of me, because it seems like I come across as much more experienced in this than I am. Fun fact, I uploaded my first indie book review in January of this year. My entire booktube channel, as of right now, as of recording this and as of the day this is uploaded, has been around for less than a year. So I am still learning a lot of things, and I thought I would take this moment to reflect on what I've learned and the things and changes I'm going to make moving forward, specifically where it relates to indie books. Now, in general, I kind of had this one on, one off policy with monthly reading. And that was 1 month would have a readathon, the next month would have all indie book reading. And I'm starting to think that that's probably not going to work out. Only because trying to keep my brain focused on a specific set of tasks for a whole month is iffy. So I think it's more like a maybe one on, one off per book or per week. I'm still playing with it, but this Indie August, I struggled a lot with burnout because reading books for review is much more difficult or tedious, I guess, than reading books just for fun. When I read a book for review, I pause at intervals to write down notes, and I am constantly thinking in between reading sessions what I'm going to say about it. Now, of course, I do that with most books I read because I'm a booktuber, but with a general book that I'm just reading for fun or for a readathon, I only have to come up with like maximum of 2 minutes of things to talk about. For an indie review book, I need to come up with like a minimum of 10 minutes of things to talk about. So it's a lot more in-depth, it's a lot more analyzing, and it's a lot more mental capacity than reading for fun. So I'm going to be shaking it up and not reading so many books one right after the other. So it might take me longer to get reviews out, but I won't be fighting with myself and getting them out. The next thing I learned, and I don't know how happy people are going to be to hear this, is I got to get pickier about what kind of books I accept. Now, the first book that I was ever given for review, that I've talked about a lot, was a space opera that I genuinely was interested in the concept of, and I genuinely love, and like I am hounding the author for the sequel hardcore. Like I saw the cover reveal on her Twitter and I was like, Shammy, is that it? And I think I was a little naive to be like, oh, well, I'll like most books that I get, or, I'll be aware enough to say no if necessary. And starting to think that that's a no, or at least I'm wary enough to know that I won't like something, but not confident enough to say no. And it's a little bit aggravating because the thinking I had was, well, if it seems really poor written or seems like a concept I don't like, I'll say no. But for the most part, I can't necessarily do that anymore. Just the sheer number of requests I'm getting is quite frankly insane. For reference, I began this month with 8 books on my to review list on Goodreads, which is basically my catch-all for all of the physical and e-arcs that I have, or review copies. And I'm like, okay, awesome. I'll get this done by the end of the month easily. And I would have. Easily. I have put out, I believe, 10 or 11 book reviews. I would have to find the actual number. I have it on a list somewhere. And I yet still have 13 books on my to review list. Let's think about that. I started with 8. I did 10. I still have 13. That's how many requests I got. And I was constantly with this, oh, well, as long as the book sounds vaguely interesting, I'll go for it. And I can't do that because I love indie books to death. I love indie books. but I can't review that many books back to back constantly. So I need to get pickier. Now, I am a very vocal person. I am sitting here talking to you all the time, and I tend to also have a fairly decent gut instinct. I mean, pretty much, from the first date with my husband, I knew it was going somewhere, and that was okay. So I gotta learn to trust that more and then follow through with it. So if I see a book premise and the title and the cover and the whole shtick, and I'm like, ooh, that's a book I gotta go for. And if I was like, oh, cool, maybe not a book I should go for. And it sucks because I want to say yes to everyone because there is such a need. I've gotten so many requests, and yes, some of them I brought on myself, and I will get to that. But I need to be very purposeful on what I do and how I do it, and I need to be, at least in reviewing, looking for very specific things, because looking back, if I was being very purposeful, there are some books that I would have passed on. There are, as of right now, 2 books that I was given to review that I ended up DNFing. And in both cases, I look back and I thought, I had issues with that synopsis going in. I could have foreseen this coming, or based on, the writing excerpt that I looked at or what have you. I could have seen this coming. I could have saved myself the struggle of having to tell the author that I DNF'd. Now, thankfully, both authors were very gracious about it. I'm still in talks with one as of filming this. I may have finished the talk after, but they were both very gracious. And most of the time, if I refuse a book for review, they're still very gracious about it. I don't know why I seem to have this fear that I'm going to say no and they're going to be furious. But so far, every time I have to be like, oh, sir, I'm going to have to pass on this review, or I can't finish your book, sorry. Everyone's been cool. And that's fantastic. That is a load off my mind. And I'm slowly learning exactly how to do that. I am actually, and this sounds horrible to say, but I am actually coming up with like skeleton letters or skeleton messages of how properly to word a rejection, I guess. It is what it is. And how to tell an author kindly, I'm sorry, I'm not interested, or I'm not interested enough to review it. And I'm working on putting that into place. Being closed to reviews has taught me that I need to, because there are times where I look over the review list I have, and I'm like, I'm pretty interested in most of them, but there's some that I'm kind of just take or leave. And then one day I got this review request from someone who didn't know I was closed, and it was fine. But I saw the premise and I was like, ooh, that looks really good, but I'm closed. And I had to say maybe later, because I haven't said no to anyone that has given me requests while I'm closed. I've said, hey, closed right now, I'll look at it later. But just looking over the premise and everything, I was kind of really jazzed about this premise, and I'm like, I'm stuck with promises to review books that I'm lukewarm or okay about, when there's a book that I was like, ooh, about in my inbox that I can't say yes to because I already said yes to all of these. So more so now, more than ever, I have to trust that people will understand that me saying I don't have the hours to dedicate to this book isn't me saying your book isn't worthwhile. Because even in the books that I have rated very low, I have found something worthwhile in them. But I need to make sure that I'm reading for my enjoyment, because as of right now, I'm not getting paid for this. So this is purely a hobby, and a hobby needs to be adding something to your life, and adding hours reading a book that I'm really not that interested in isn't helping. So for the most part, I'm going to get pickier, and I'm really sad at all the people I'm probably going to start saying no to, because I gotta lessen the amount of review copies I take in, because there is a readathon that I genuinely love the concept of and want to take part in. And September apparently is going to be very sci-fi based. And that means that like half the month is probably going to be dedicated to that. So that's half a month that I think I did fit in one review book in that readathon, because I'm usually pretty good at least fitting in a couple indie books with whatever readathon I do. It's just one of my favorite kinds of books. I'm working on forgiving myself or not feeling guilty if I'm not being like all reviews all the time. And it's hard because I do see all these, reviewers or all these authors that are desperate for reviewers, and I want to fill all the needs. I can't, and I have to accept that I can't. Now, the nice thing is that lately, I don't know if I've just been in the right section of book Twitter, but I've seen a lot more books being mentioned. Specifically, there's the Monthly Book Club, which is a book club focused on indie romance or erotica. Now, it doesn't really make a big deal out of the fact that it's indie, but the leader of it, Chandler Ainsley, reads a lot of indie books. I think she joked that like the majority of her reading comes from Kindle Unlimited, which is majority indie books. So I have to like take a deep breath and realize that there are other people picking up indie books. I have been talking about Our Bloody Pearl by Deanne Bryn to anyone who will hear, and I've seen some other booktubers picking that one up. So like it's getting out. There are indie books that are getting out, and I need to remind myself that I am not the be all end all. I am not the sole solution to the problem of indie books getting out into the world. I can relax. I can let myself off. I can let myself read, my sci-fi paperbacks from the early 2000s without feeling guilt, which is what I'm reading right now, because I'm taking a break for the rest of Indie August as of recording this and jumping into sci-fi. So I'm giving myself leeway. I am accepting that I cannot read all of the indie books and review all the indie books, and that I should focus on the books that I really can champion, because having those books where I'm like, you should read this. Have you read this yet? It's just like this book. Really, I'm dead serious. Look at that cover. Read it. Having that kind of energy around books is so much nicer than being like, oh, well, that's a book I read and got a review out for. Like, I love that energy, and I want to find books that have that energy. And especially now, because I am going to start having some sequels for series that I've reviewed the first one for coming my way. So like, I really, really got to get careful, because for me, sequels are grandfathered in. I actually had one author who was like, oh, you're closed, but like the sequel to my book comes out soon. I'm like, no, it's grandfathered in. So I'm going to get more picky. I'm going to give myself more breaks. But I am going to keep doing indie reviews. I should be putting out at least 3 within the month of September, if I do it the way I want to, because there are books that are being published in October and I want to get reviews out in time for them. Or, well, one review will be out for the book being published in October, and then other ones is for other things. But regardless, do not expect to see 10 or 11 reviews in 1 month anytime soon, unless we're talking like an Indie August or an Indie December. I think this will be a specialty month thing, not a standard thing, for my own sanity. But in general, it has been so much fun. I love book reviews, which is weird because they don't do well on BookTube in general. Most booktubers have actually turned away from doing straight book reviews for like one book, and most of the time it's like multi-books. But I'm having fun and enjoying this and have seen so much growth, and I am so grateful for everyone that's been here. I thought it would be a miracle if I reached 700 subscribers by the end of the year, and I managed it by the end of August, and I'm so happy. And I'm still to the point where every time I see a new subscriber, it's awesome, and I'm just, it's so nice. And thank you all so much for being here. Maybe put down in the comments below if you've learned anything in your bookish pursuits lately. If it's something you've learned in writing or reading or BookTube or whatever, put down something that you've recently learned about yourself, your channel, your author career, whatever it is. I'd like to see us all trying to grow and change our mindset and become better creative people. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.